Alright, we're going to make some chicken broth today. We've got some whole chickens which we got from the butcher, also some chicken feet which are really good for your broth because they've got all of the collagen fibres, make it nice and gelatinous. And it's going to be about a 12 to 24 hour process of simmering. So what we're going to do is we're going to just set this up, chicken, water, salt and vinegar, let it cook for the whole day or maybe overnight, and then in the morning or in this afternoon we'll throw in some aromatic vegetables, some onions, carrots, celery, maybe some herbs, and let it cook for about another hour, and then away we go. So really simple process. I'm just going to start with the chickens, whack them in there. I've got my feet as well. Top it up with water. Stir it, fry it up. Bit of salt while I'm at it. Good to put the salt in while you're cooking it. It just brings out a bit more flavour and you get a nicer rounded flavour at the end rather than putting the salt in at the end. I just put a bit in now and then you can sort of add more later if you like as well. Bit of apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar apparently helps to pull out some of the minerals that need a little bit of a lower pH to come out into the water. So that's pretty much it. I'll get a lid for that one. What I'm going to do here is let it, I've got it on high heat, I'll let it come to just about a boil. What we'll notice is as it does that, all the proteins will coagulate and come over on the surface, known as a scum, which we will then skim off. And one thing we want to do is catch that and skim it all off before it actually starts boiling. If it starts boiling, you get that kind of clouding your broth, and it also a lot of the fats then can emulsify into the liquid, and you kind of end up with like a murky kind of oily broth. So we're just going to bring it up to the temperature, skim it all off, and then we'll reduce it down to a bare simmer, and we'll let it sit like that. So I'll check in once it's ready.
And what would happen if I was using beef or pork bones or another animal? What sort of cuts would I be looking for?
Similar process. The main thing with the cuts that you're putting in there, ideally you want to use the weight-bearing joints, because weight-bearing joints, they've got all of that collagen in there which is going to melt down, and that's what makes your broth so medicinal. So today, I mean, look, we usually use lots of feet. We use wings, drumsticks,
frames.
Yeah, frames as well. I've just got the whole chickens today because that's something that's really accessible and easy to do. And actually, if you're doing this at home, the other thing you can do, you can let this cook for, simmer for about an hour. Then you can actually pull the whole chickens out, pull off all the meat, stick that in the fridge, and put all the carcasses back in there. So you've cooked the meat, you've got a bit of flavour out of the meat, then the meat's not so overdone that it's lost all its flavour, so you can actually save that and make your chicken sandwiches and whatever, use that, put it in back into your soup later. Just put all the bones back in there and give them the nice long cook. We'll check in later. Alright, so my alarm just went off. I had this set to 96 degrees, just below the boiling point. So you can see now a lot of those proteins have come to the surface. I'm going to just do my best to just kind of get a lot of that scum. There's nothing really wrong with this, it's just protein, but if you remove it you get a nice clear, clean tasting broth. I'll make a smoothie or something with this stuff if you like.
See if he's serious or not.
Alright. So I could actually spend ages doing this because it's so fun, but I'm okay with that. And so what else do I have to tell you? Oh, so that's on full right now. I'm going to bring that right down to I want it to pretty much stay at, if you look at the pot here, that's pretty much where you want it to sit. There's bubbles coming up, but it's not at a rolling boil. It's not too vigorous, but you got that sort of nice amount of activity and movement happening in the water. Yeah, come back and give it another skim in a few minutes just to get a little bit more of that stuff out of it, but that's a pretty good level now. I'll let that sit for maybe about another hour, then I might pull the whole chickens out, pull a bit of meat off that and save that in the fridge until I need to use it to eat. And then I'll be putting the carcasses back in there. We'll let that simmer away for another 12 hours or so. You can leave it up to 24 hours. I've always found with chicken and those lighter bones, 12 hours is probably enough to do it at home. Actually, you know, even I've done it for 4 hours and it still has a nice gel and good flavour. But giving it that extra time, you're giving it a bit more time to pull a bit more of the mineral out.
But doing some of the bigger beef bones, you might do them for 12 hours? I mean 24 hours?
When you're using beef bones or anything with like a big, heavier, denser bone, definitely want to give it probably 12, 24, sometimes even 48 hours. Although I also find that if you leave it too long, it kind of gets that milky, kind of almost you get too much sort of calcium out, and it kind of, yeah. The flavours, I think, with the beef, ideal at about 24 hours. Alrighty. So, we're going to pull this chicken out to save it for later.
What is it, Rain?
Guess what?
What?
When we were looking on the Jurassic Lego set second-hand,
Yeah?
guess what?
What?
I think we have one of those Jurassic ones, but the people just kept like the dinosaur.
Yeah, maybe.
Because one had, do you know the one with the big bump on it can charge?
Yeah?
That one.
Yeah.
There was this, I saw it, it's the one that you could buy on of one of them.
Yep.
And it had a sign of things exploding, and I have that sign too.
Do you? Yeah, cool. I'll have a bit more of a chat after this video, okay?
I'm going to put a dinosaur in.
I'm just going to pull off the big chunks of breast meat first.
So you were just going to mention too about how long it took to get the broth to the just pre-boil
yeah,
before,
that's right.
and how long it's been now?
Yeah, well, it was actually really quick. I'm used to doing this in 60-litre pots, but in this little 6-litre pot, it actually only took probably under an hour for it to come up to the temperature where it needed skimming. And then, yeah, and it's been only like another 10 minutes since I did that skim, so this meat looks really succulent, it's really juicy, it's beautiful, and I'm being pretty rough with it because this is all just, as far as I'm concerned, its own kind of bonus meat. I might even just leave that little bit on the drumsticks and stuff there.
It'll all add to the flavour of the broth.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's probably... It will add to it. It's once it's cooked through, like, it'll just be pretty tasteless. Like after another few hours of cooking. So anyway, I'm happy with that. I could pick more little bits off there, but just that breast meat, that'll be yummy to pull apart and stick back into a chicken soup, or maybe just mix some mayonnaise into it and have it on the sandwich or something later. Cool. I'm just going to put some veggies in the broth. Here's some carrot. Chop them up pretty rough. Celery. And onion. Done. It's time to jar the broth up as well. It's actually half jarred already because the battery ran out on the phone. Anyway, got a couple here. I'm using these ball mason canning jars, which are really fantastic for jarring broth because you can get it nice and hot, and then you can pour it straight into the jar. It vacuum seals and it'll last for about 6 months or so in the fridge. You don't need to freeze the broth. That way it'll just ready to go and ready to use when you need it. Now, I've also was planning to make a chicken noodle soup with some of this tonight, so that's my jarring process, but I might actually use this as well. Really simple meal to make. Just boiled up some spaghetti. Heated up some of that chicken breast and a bit of broccoli as well, and then just pour it over the top. A few carrots or whatever other little bits and pieces you have around.
Sprouts would be good on top of that.
Sprouts would be good. I'll do some sprouts actually. There's some sprouts on there.
Yum.
We've got the lentils.
Yeah, let's use the lentils. They'll be really good.
That we made in the video earlier today. Got a bit of that on. And a bit of chili oil as well.
Ooh, yum.
Maybe not for the kids' ones. Alright.
And what happens when you get to the bottom? Do you just sieve it all out?
Oh yeah, the last bit here I will just work through here.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, not the best angle.
Oh, is that the last of it in there?
No, there's enough to do another jar.
Oh.
Do that afterwards.
And could you reboil those bones and get more out of it?
Yeah, you could, but for all that effort and time, like, you can have a look. I mean, you can do a second boil, but you're not going to get anywhere near the same amount of flavour out of it. You can pick off all this meat as well and use it, but it's pretty flavourless after, you know, the 9 or 10 hours that we've cooked it, so yeah, as you wish.